I have the Samsung Galaxy S23 here, and in today's video I'll be showing you how to install the original firmware back on this device. This will also work for the Galaxy S23 Plus and the Galaxy S23 Ultra as well. Just make sure that you download the firmware that matches your model. This guide can be helpful for those who have installed something like Magisk, but have later decided that they do not want it on the phone anymore. So here I can show you how to fully unroot the device and bring it back to 100% stock original firmware. This video can also be helpful to those who just want to wipe all of the data while also installing a fresh copy of OneUI to the smartphone. The process we'll be going through today is a great troubleshooting step if you find the operating system itself has some unique bug that does not go away with a regular factory data reset. With that said, following today's video will erase all of the data from your smartphone. So back up the important bits ahead of time so that they can be restored later on. To begin, we first need to download the firmware for our device. Now, I use a program called Firmware to do this, but there are some websites that you can also download official Samsung firmware for. I'll be including links to a couple of previous videos that I have already done down in the video description below that shows you how Firmware works and other websites that you can use to download Samsung firmware. However, this requires that you also know the region code of your phone, aka the CSC code, which helps to make sure that you are downloading the proper firmware for your device. After you have done that, you will also need to download a program called Odin. This is a piece of software that is used to communicate with the Samsung Galaxy S23 series, and it's how we install the newly downloaded firmware onto your device. You can find a download link to the exact version that I'm using here in today's video below in the video description as well. Finally, we then need to boot your Galaxy S23, Galaxy S23 Plus, or Galaxy S23 Ultra into download mode. In an attempt to prevent this video from being longer than it needs to be, I'll be linking to a guide that I have already done down below that shows you all of these steps involved in getting your phone into download mode. Just don't forget to press the volume up button when you get to this screen so that it bypasses that menu and actually gets you into download mode. So let's take a look at Odin real quick. Remember, we have our Galaxy S23 in download mode, and it's connected to the PC with a USB cable. Odin should detect this device by saying it has been added from within the log window, but you should also see the device has been detected somewhere in one of these boxes up here at the top. If you don't see that Odin has detected your phone in download mode, then you're likely dealing with some issue related to USB. This could mean that you haven't installed the proper USB drivers from Samsung, or it may mean that Odin doesn't like the USB cable you're using, or that it doesn't like the USB port you're using. So try changing these around to see if this program will actually detect your smartphone. If you're still having trouble here, let me know in the comments section below, and I'll do what I can to help out. So after I have downloaded this firmware file from Firmware, I extract the contents, and I'm given these 5 files here. You may notice that you get 6 files, which is perfectly okay. Devices in certain regions also come with a user data file, but other regions it does not. In my case, I'm given 5 files, and we're going to take these and we're going to plug them into Odin so we can flash the firmware properly. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to click the BL button right here. We're going to browse to wherever we downloaded that firmware, and then we're going to select the file that begins with the letters BL. Next, we're going to click the CP button here, and then we're going to load the firmware file that begins with the letters CP. We're then going to click the CSC button, and we're going to select the file that begins with the letters CSC. We need to choose this one and not the home CSC file, since we're actually erasing all of the data from our device. So just pick the regular CSC file. If your firmware has a user data file, you can load that now. But if not, we're going to skip it here. And we're then going to click the AP button. And then we're going to load the massive firmware file that begins with the letters AP. It can take a while for Odin to fully load in this AP file. And on some versions of Windows, it may look like Odin has bugged out and is not responding. That is normal, so just give it a few minutes and it should work itself out by loading that AP file into this slot. This AP file is very large, so it can take some time for Odin to unpack it and make sure that it is not corrupt. Again, we're just going to wait patiently. And eventually it should load into Odin just like that. I'll show you my options tab, just in case you have changed these settings on your version of Odin in the past. But when you're ready, we're just going to click the Start button down here at the bottom of Odin. Now the amount of time it takes for this program to flash the firmware files onto your Galaxy S23, Galaxy S23 Plus, or Galaxy S23 Ultra will depend on a few factors. But just like when waiting for the AP file to load, we're just going to wait patiently, and we're going to follow the progress bar up here to make sure that it hasn't stalled out. There's also a progress bar on the smartphone itself at the bottom of the download mode screen. So if you want to watch that, you can as well. The important part here is that we do not touch the phone. There is no need to pick the phone up, no need to move it, no need to handle the USB cable. It is vital that we keep a stable connection to our device. because if something interrupts Odin while it is flashing these files to the Galaxy S23, then we could end up with a boot loop if something goes wrong. Then we're going to have to start all over by again booting into download mode and flashing these files. If you notice that Odin hangs during this process, then the first thing that I would suggest is that you try it over again. That means turn your phone off, boot it back into download mode, close out Odin, open it back up, load those firmware files in it, and then click the start button again to give it another try. If it continues to hang, then that indicates that there is likely something wrong with the firmware file that you downloaded. It could have been an incomplete or corrupt firmware file. So I would recommend trying to download it again from the same source, but you could also try a different website or a different program. Once the progress bar gets toward the end, we're going to be looking for a green pass message up here. And when it is done, your Galaxy S23 will reboot on its own, and then you'll be taken back into the Android operating system. When the smartphone reboots, you are safe to unplug the USB cable from the device. And this first boot back into Android will take longer than normal. Since we have just erased everything from the device, the operating system needs some time to set things up so that it can be activated, and then you can begin installing your apps and games again. So I'm just going to skip through this activation screen and get us back into Android. Now we can begin the restore process with our backup, or we can log into the Google Play Store and install our apps from scratch. Either way, we have completed the process of installing the original firmware back to our Galaxy S23, Galaxy S23 Plus, or Galaxy S23 Ultra. If you had any issues along the way, let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll respond as quickly as I can.